Roger once again, Mud Fossil University. It looks like scientists are starting to catch up with Mud Fossil University. Scientists uncover mechanism stabilizes fusion plasmas. Well, I'm not sure exactly what they're talking about, whether they're talking about nuclear particles, but what I'm seeing here is exactly what Rodney Warren and I have been doing for years. In this type of simulations, magnetic flux pumping develops in hybrid scenarios. That exists between standard regimes, which include high confinement. Now, high confinement and low confinement plasmas. Now, they're talking about pressure, I would say, high confinement and low confinement pressures, in advanced scenarios in which the plasma operates in a steady state. So they go boop, 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 boop. That's high and low plasmas. They're crushing. This is where they exist in a steady state. In hybrid scenarios, the current remains flat in the core of the plasma while the pressure of the plasma stays sufficiently high. Let's see what Rodney and I came up with a while back. Alright, this is just a cheap, inexpensive Bosch GLM 15, I think it's called, construction laser coming through the air, pulsed red laser. Now let's see what we can do with that. Now, energy interactions create fields. This was that laser pulse coming through here, and it is now turned into an extremely excited plasma. The plasma is a result of two airplane wings, just like this, funneling these electrons, which they are, light is electrons, through and crushing them into each other's regions, creating a entry zone here and an exit zone over here. Now, they're all negative particles. They crush each other's zones and they create a plasma in here. And as a result, they re-radiate a reverse electromagnetic field, which is enormous. Now, I've been saying, I don't know if there's a practical effect for this. I do not know that, one way or the other. But I can tell you right now what is happening here is these are negative particles. They are being forced to crush into each other's regions, which they are all supposed to own a small space surrounding them, and once it gets invaded, they glow. The harder it gets pushed, the more they glow. In this case, they are starting to glow here because they have to accelerate, and they're pushing into each other, and then they're starting to stack up here. And now they've created a source. If they are talking about regulating instead of a sawtooth wave, boop, 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 they're talking about creating a source and a drain. That's what I'm seeing here. Now, I don't know if it has a practical effect for them, but I would look into this restriction Venturi. It's nothing fancy. This is just a construction laser and two construction nails. This is $50 less than $50 at US. Now, when this comes out of here, these electrons are forcing still in each other's regions. And when they come out, they just explode out here to the left, to the right. But most of them are pushing. They're pushing each other. So, obviously, the edge ones are pushing this way as well as pushing out. These are pushing this way as well as pushing out. You end up with the central core collecting most of your electrons because they're both of them pushing this way and both of them pushing this way. And then they will start to create the interference patterns that they claim are from some kind of a wave, twist and this and that. Now, these interference patterns continuously dissipate because I'm pushing. They're still pushing back this way, so you get the lines, and then at the very end you get little squiggly looking things because they're not affected by both sides anymore. They can just go the way they want to go, so they sort of flash over here. Now, that is light acceleration. There's nobody on the face of the planet can tell me that light has not accelerated. That is light acceleration. Absolutely no question whatsoever. In my mind, I don't know if you could see that and say there's some other reason for that. I'd like to explain it to me. So let's get away from this Einstein stuff of light, a solid number for light. Absolutely not correct. Secondly, light is particles. It's not a wave or a particle and a particle, or sometimes not this and sometimes that. That's literally was nonsense from day one. And a massless photon is also nonsense. Nothing comes from the sun that is nothing and then becomes something when it hits the earth. That's just absolute nonsense. If it's a massless item, that means it's nothing. There's nothing there. There's no mass. There's nothing. What does it do? How does it move? How does it react? How does it push something? How does it affect anything else if it's nothing? If I have nothing, I have nothing. There's nothing here. There's nothing. Nothing does nothing. It affects nothing. It is nothing. It is. It was just total nonsense from every syllable of it. Plus, E equals mc squared does not work when light has no mass, because that means light has no energy. And we know light has energy. It makes solar cells work, and it heats you up, and glows the room and all that stuff. So, and the other thing is, these are ether particles, and the ether particles are a result of pressure forcing these particles to be crushed, just like these are. These are not being crushed to the extent these are. That's the difference. Once again, these are all the ether particles. They're not being crushed the way the other ones were. They're just being sort of pushed around a little bit, so they're glowing a little bit here and there. And that is what happens. This is really just a particle beam in the center here. It's really right about here. Everything around it begins to glow because it's saying, get out of my way, get out of my way. It's coming through here, just a little thing. But when it comes, it makes this, just exactly like a airplane breaking the speed of sound. When you see all that stuff go around it and it's a big shock wave, that's the shock wave. This is conduction. Hello my good friends, it's Roger, Mud Fossil University, and today we're going to talk about physics and learning a new language. Now you would say, well, what's that all about? Why would you say physics and learning a new language? And then I would say, if you knew a language, if you were brought up with a language, you would find it very difficult to learn a new language. I think that's a fair statement. I learned English because I was born up. I just started talking it, I guess. It just happened. Now, but I took 3 years of French 1, and the third year I just barely got by. So it's hard to learn something, then unlearn it to learn something that you don't think is true in the first place. And this is what we're running into with physicists. They have absolutely no interest in seeing something that they don't believe is true before they see it. And what they are looking at right here is, I believe, the elemental particles. This over here is a light accelerator. And these, I believe, are the elemental particles. And I'm going to show you a different shot. And maybe I'm wrong, but I'd like to have somebody think about it. Standard red laser coming through, tiny little dot here, expanding the ether in space, causing a glow around it. That tiny little particle beam coming through here, expanding space, expanding the ether, causing it to glow, is now being sucked into a Venturi and accelerated as is seen. And I will go over this in great detail in the video. As it exits the accelerator, we see these Higgs fields. I have many videos on this. Boson particles, Cherenkov radiation, electron neutrinos, boson particles, Higgs fields. Crushed Higgs fields being crushed by these two fields that are intruding on it. These circular dot patterns are the patterns of ether polarized around the charged particle carrier. Exactly what they say they are looking for with the Higgs boson. And you, my friends, know more about light right now than a physicist, because you can see that light spins, and as it spins through the disk, through the slot this way, and they start collecting this way, and if it comes through this way, they start collecting this way. As they come through, they force each other into the center because they try to oppose. They oppose this way and oppose that way. That's why they trail off, and I go over that in great detail too. So I'm telling you right now, you just learned more than a physicist about light. And you also have to understand that light leaving the sun is a particle, and that particle is an electron, and that electron spins through space unseen as a particle, has potential energy when it impacts with anything, anywhere, which is a complete mass. In other words, it has a nucleus, like a space station or a comet or anything that's in space, or our atmosphere, or our planet. Then it impacts, and that is when the collision causes things to glow and excite. Heat, light. You now have almost everything you need to know. Let's go a little deeper.